What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith. Welcome to the Nerdy Narrative, where today I am going to do my October monthly wrap-up. Just everything that I read during the month of October, read or finished, because there's actually one here that I started reading a while back and finished this month, so we're just gonna cover it all. A quick disclaimer for any of you who might be new here. On books that are parts of series, I do not get in depth with, because I don't know if you've read the series or not. I don't want to spoil anything, especially if it's one you might read. 3 of these are popular series that I think a lot of people are either reading or will want to read soon. And if I did a dedicated review for it, then I will let you know that I did, and I'll link that for you if you want to watch that for more information. All of the books are going to be linked in the description below. That will have the book description and my written review. So if you're one of those who does like to read book descriptions, I know a lot of people think they have spoilers and stay away from those. If you do want to read those, they're there for you. And if you want to read my written review that gives you a little bit more in depth of my opinion, that is there for you as well. Alright, housekeeping done. Let's get into all of the books that I read during the month of October. Starting with book 9 of the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. Now this one I really enjoyed. I gave it 4 stars. A lot of people say this one is one of those books that's part of the slog, and I don't see it. I think it's because I'm one of those that just loves strategery. There's a lot of strategery that goes on here. At this point of the story, all of the characters are just embroiled in all of these different types of plots of scheming and just all of the fun stuff, in my opinion. I really enjoy reading about that. This one has historically always been one that I really enjoyed, and this reread was no exception. Next up, another 4-star read for me, this time from the horror genre, P.D. Aliva's Jiggly Spot and the Zero Intellect. This one was published on October 31st. This is one I did a dedicated non-spoiler video review for, so I'll have that linked for you. I gave it 4 stars. Really enjoyed the writing style, the creativity. Just, if you told me beforehand, this book and its characters, just every content warning you could think of is going to be in this book, I think I would have looked at you a little sideways like, I don't know if that's one I want to read. But the way this author writes those things and just the story, it worked. It just worked. I loved it so much that I'm currently, at time of filming, reading another novel by this author that is actually connected to this one, because there's a character that's mentioned, alluded to, very much an enigma. And at the end of this book, there was a page that said, hey, for those of you who are curious about the character of Mr. West, go read my novel Gollum. Well, guys, that's exactly what I'm doing right now. But again, check out that video if you want to hear more about this one. My next October read, another 4-star, was a graphic novel, Downtown, which is part of the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. I was very excited to find that all of the graphic novels are part of the Kindle Unlimited subscription, because these suckers are like $50 a piece. I'm not blowing that on a graphic novel, not something that I'm going to read in an hour. Did I enjoy it? Yes. This artist does a phenomenal job bringing the characters of the Dresden verse to life in a comic book form. This is just a side quest with Harry and his apprentice, and there is something that happens with another character that when you start reading White Knight, there's an exchange between Harry and another character that makes more sense, because Downtown is the story behind that little exchange. But it's just a couple of sentences you would never know unless you read the graphic novel, which segues right into White Knight by Jim Butcher. I read this one. Loved it as usual. I gave it 4 stars, which, if I haven't mentioned, all of the Dresden File books are rereads for me. I've read these a few times before. All of the short stories and graphic novels are new to me. This is the first time I'm reading the series with everything involved. I'm really enjoying it, by the way. But in this one, there is a string of apparent suicides that's taking place, and Chicago PD has called in Harry because there's something hinky going on, and sure enough, it is related to the magical world. The suicides are all people who are practitioners of some form or fashion, usually very weak in the art, so Harry is on the case to find out what's going on and see if he can get to the bottom of it. In fact, I enjoyed my reread of this one so much, I went immediately into the next one in the series, which is Small Favor. Yet another 4-star read for me. This is book 10 of the series. For those of you who have read the series, you know every 5 books there are a certain group of people that show up. I'm always excited the most for those rereads in particular because they're just so good. And in this one, Harry has sort of let his guard down. Nobody's tried to kill him in a long time. He's feeling good, dare I say, even feeling happy, until the Queen of Air and Darkness shows up. She's like, hey, don't you remember you owe me a small favor? Yeah, I'm here to collect. And things just get crazy from there. And then after this one, I read an arc that I requested off of NetGalley and was approved for, called A Lonesome Blood Red Sun by David Putnam. Now, unbeknownst to me, because NetGalley just really drops the ball on this, they do not mark clearly if a book is part of a series. When you hit request on a book that is not the first book in a series, I think they should have a pop-up that says, hey, are you aware that you are requesting book 2 in a series? So you can be like, oh, snap, let me back out and read the first one. So A Lonesome Blood Red Sign was a 2-star read for me. In fact, it is the lowest rated read for me in 2023. I did do a dedicated review on this one of why I gave it 2 stars. It was not done lightly. This one was a crime thriller. The core plot was good. It was interesting. The book description made me want to read it. The problem is you had to read half the book to get to the part that the book description was about. That's problematic for me. So back to You Don't Know Us Negroes and Other Essays by Zora Neale Hurston. This is a nonfiction collection that I've been reading, I think, since last year. Maybe even the year before that, I'm not sure. I've been slowly working my way through. Very interesting. Zora's writing just never gets old. I'm so happy to know that I love her nonfiction as much as I do her fiction. But after reading her nonfiction, I want to go back and reread all of her nonfiction because I think it's going to mean more. I've learned so much reading her essay. This woman was so intelligent. She had such great insight into people. I would highly recommend this one. The other one that I've read by her nonfiction is called Tell My Mule. Wonderful. Absolutely loved it. I have a non-spoiler review for that one. I'll post as well if you want to check it out. Next, I read an SPFBO 9 entrant. It's called Springtide Harvest by J.D. Mitchell. I am so glad the author decided to turn this one into a series because I am not done with these characters. I'm not done with this world. This is a fantasy novel about Haskell. Haskell has decided he doesn't want to follow in his father's footsteps. He doesn't want to be involved in the merchant world. He wants to quest. He wants to be an adventurer like his grandfather. He wants to have the kind of legacy that his grandfather has. It was so easy to just get caught up in the action adventure, the coming of age story about Haskell. This was one I couldn't stop reading once I started. It's one of those books that when I did have to put it down to go do other stuff, I continued thinking about it. I still think about it. Like, I am so excited for the next book that I think the author is currently writing. I can't wait to get my hands on it. I'm gonna beg for an arc. So as soon as that one hits, you're going to be hearing about it here on the channel. I read and loved Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. Y'all, I wish I had jumped on this bandwagon sooner, but then again, maybe not, because I read it just in time to love it, to pick up the newest release in the series, which I kept saying was a sequel. It's actually a prequel to the series, Bookshops and Bone Dust. I really hope Travis is able to capture that same energy in that one. And I have to wonder if that one, since it's a prequel, is it going to be about Viv when she first discovers coffee? Because in this one, she's retiring from her life of adventuring and going out and collecting bounties on monsters. Now all she wants to do is find the perfect spot to open a coffee shop. And this one just really embraces the cozy fantasy vibes. This one is perfect to read this time of year. It's gonna make you want to drink a lot of coffee, eat a lot of pastries. It's gonna make your little heart squeeze. I loved every one of these characters that I met. It's just a slow-paced, slice-of-life story about this orc settling down, putting down roots and what that means, and making actual friends. Ugh. It's so good. I loved it. I can't wait to read the next one. I hope Travis doesn't disappoint me with that one. Very deserving of all of the hype it's been receiving. I'm very regretful that I held out on it as long as I did. Next up, in the manga category, I read Junji Ito's Cat Diary, Yanamu. I didn't realize this was a non-fiction manga. This is about he and his wife, when they were engaged, how they got their brand new house and got a cat. And then got another cat. And just how he was all against it. He was a dog person. And then suddenly, without him really realizing how it happened, his heart was captured by these cats. And this is about him trying to win their affections and just learning how cats are. If you are a cat lover or you've ever been a cat owner, you're going to get a lot of laughs about this one. You're going to be nodding your head yes, because you're going to recognize a lot of the funny things that cats do. He just captured perfectly in these pages. Really enjoyed this one. I buddy read it with my friend Una from the Codex Cantina. We both just had a great time with this one because we've been longtime cat owners ourselves. I don't have any now because my husband is deathly allergic to cats. That's when I switched over to pups, and y'all, once you go pup, you never go back. I'll never ever, well, don't say never, but I plan to only ever have dogs going forward because they're just so much more loving. Cats literally could not care less about you. A dog, you can leave the room for 2 seconds, come back, and they're like, oh my God, where have you been? I miss you so much. I love you. Yeah, I'm a pup girl. The next book that I read was also a buddy read. I read Anne Rice's Violin with my friend Eddie. I didn't have any expectations. I've only ever read her vampire series, and that was a long time ago. I had forgotten how beautiful her writing style was. And this one is about a woman who is, I want to say she's around 50. Her husband has just died from AIDS, and that's back when everybody freaked out about that. They didn't know enough about AIDS to understand it, and so what they don't understand, they fear, right? She is just overcome because what this death of her husband has done has refreshed her grief and loss from the loss of her parents, and her child, her only child from her first husband, died at age 6 of a type of blood cancer. So she is just awash in grief. And this demon, this ghost who delights in making people go mad, insane, attaches itself to her. He wants to make her go insane. But what happens is he meets his match because she recognizes him for who he is and what he's trying to do. And this battle of wits was so interesting to me to read about. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. Now for my last read in October, another 5-star to close out the month, was a new to me author, Philip Fracassi, Boys in the Valley. This is a religious horror that was picked for me, my patron pick of the month, by Tara, and oh my gosh. In fact, spoiler alert for November, I went right into another book of his, A Child Alone with Strangers, and that ended up being another 5-star. This is an auto-buy author for me. This is one of the best horror books I have read in the last few years. It's definitely one of the best religious possession stories that I've read. There's just so much for the horror lover to love about this one. The writing style, the atmosphere that this author is able to write, and the story was just, oh my gosh, it was so good. So it's early 1900s. It's in this remote valley of Pennsylvania. We've got St. Vincent's Orphanage for Boys. It's at full capacity, 32 boys. Winter is setting in. One night there comes a knock on the door. The sheriff arrives with a couple of deputies and a wounded man that they're asking one of the priests to help heal. Turns out the father had been a medic in the war before he was a priest, and they're hoping that they can help this man, save his life, and maybe save his soul while he's at it, because there is definitely something going on. There's occult symbols carved all over this person. He inevitably loses his life, and whatever is in him releases into the orphanage and into the boys. And it's so good. It's so good. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And he was not a one-hit wonder. Like I said, I've already read another book by him that I loved, gave it 5 stars. And I have my sights set on another one by him that I'm going to be fitting in soon. But that is going to do it for the month of October for me. Full of 4-star reads. Even had a couple of 5-star reads. I'm so excited. It's always a good month when you have a 5-star read. And now I had 2. And of course, I've already spoiled. I had a 5-star read to start off November, so I am riding the bookworm high right now. I would love to hear about what your favorite read of October was down in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. That's gonna do it for me today. I'll catch you guys in the next one.